Hello, it's Saturday the 9th of May. You're tuned in to our late night newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. It's great to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. We start with what has been a busy day of military activity north of the border. North Korea has test-fired ship-to-ship missiles into the East Sea. This, along with news the regime recently launched a ballistic missile from an underwater submarine, have officials here in the south on high alert. Choi You-sun starts us off.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says North Korea test-fired 3 ship-to-ship missiles into the East Sea from waters by the coastal city of Wonsan between 4:25 and 5:23 p.m. Korea time on Saturday. The K-101 missiles are known to have a range of 100 kilometers. According to the South Korean military, these missiles are the same type as the ones North Korea test-fired in early February, the first time the regime launched ship-to-ship missiles. In another provocation, Pyongyang sent a fax message through the Inter-Korean military hotline calling on Seoul to take up the challenge if it's prepared to fight. A day earlier, North Korea threatened to strike if South Korean Navy boats continue to cross its claimed western maritime border. North Korea doesn't acknowledge the so-called Northern Limit Line, which was drawn at the end of the Korean War in 1953. Seoul has vowed to retaliate should Pyongyang carry out a provocation that directly affects the South. Also on Saturday, North Korea's news agency said the regime had test-fired its own strategic submarine-launched ballistic missile. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said when the submarine-launched ballistic missile goes into production and is stationed soon, it will be like installing a time bomb on the regime's enemies. South Korean officials are reportedly looking into how big of a security threat Pyongyang's first submarine missile launch will pose, as the regime may attempt longer-range test firings in the future. Experts say North Korea's latest string of hostile actions are part of its attempt to increase tensions on the peninsula and take the driver's seat in inter-Korean relations. Choi You-sun, Arirang News.
The United States has once again been stressing the benefits of deploying a U.S. missile defense system to South Korea. The U.S. House Armed Services Committee says stationing a terminal high-altitude area defense, or THAAD, battery here would help the allies defend against North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile threats. The committee's report also mentions how the commander of U.S. forces in South Korea has been pressing for the deployment, as it would allow Seoul and Washington to build a layered and interoperable ballistic missile defense capability. The report adds, however, that the U.S. recognizes any deployment decision rests solely with the South Korean government. The potential deployment is a highly contentious issue, both inside and outside of Korea. China and Russia have expressed strong opposition, saying THAAD's radar system capabilities would pose a threat to their national security. The Abe administration in Japan is reportedly trying to enact a time frame of 1 week each for both houses of parliament to review its decision to deploy Japanese military forces overseas. Japan's Sankei Shimbun Daily says a related bill states the Japanese Prime Minister must get parliamentary approval if he or she decides to send troops to respond to threats against world peace in accordance with the UN Charter. The bill only states the Japanese forces cannot carry out their support and cooperative missions in areas of armed conflict, which significantly expands the troops' activities. Tokyo has recently revised its joint defense cooperation guidelines with the United States, which permits Japan a greater military role outside its borders. South Korea has one of the fastest aging populations in the world, and as you'd expect, this trend is being reflected in the nation's capital. For more on Seoul's shifting demographics, our Won Ji-yeon reports.
There's been a dramatic shift in Seoul's population. The city has announced that for the first time in history, more seniors were living in the capital than those under the age of 15. According to Seoul statistics, the number of city residents who are older than 65 was more than 1.2 million as of April. And that's nearly 5,000 more than the number of young people under 15. Along with that, the city's aging index has also surpassed 100 for the first time last month. The index is the ratio of people over the age of 65 to those who are younger than 15. And a reading above 100 indicates that the elderly population is outpacing the young, meaning that now there are more senior citizens to support than those who are economically active. The index started at just below 22 in 1996, but has jumped nearly 5 times in recent years, climbing up to 100.4 last month. The trend has also raised the average age in the capital to 40.2, and people in their 40s and 50s are now the average in many areas throughout Seoul. A city official expressed his concerns regarding the quickly aging population, in addition to the country's falling birth rate. At this pace, he predicts that seniors will represent more than 14% of Seoul's population by the year 2018. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Russia staged its largest ever military parade on Saturday, the 70th anniversary of the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. Tens of thousands of troops and some of Russia's latest weaponry was paraded through and above Moscow's Red Square under the watchful gaze of Russian President Vladimir Putin and the heads of state of some 20 nations, including Chinese President Xi Jinping. Most Western leaders boycotted the event because of Russia's involvement in the Ukraine crisis. President Park Geun-hye also stayed at home, sending a representative to Moscow on her behalf. Now, US analysts say some of the new vehicles and weaponry on show at this parade represent the biggest modernization of Russia's armed forces in over 40 years. Saturday's event commemorated Russia's massive sacrifices during the war, in which an estimated 26 million Russians died. There's been a huge step forward in the global fight against Ebola. Liberia, one of the West African countries hit hardest by the virus, has been declared Ebola-free by the World Health Organization after 6 weeks of no new cases. In a statement Saturday, the WHO said interruption of transmission in the country was a monumental achievement. At the height of the outbreak last August and September, Liberia was reporting around 400 new cases a week. The Ebola outbreak has killed over 11,000 people in West Africa and remains active in Guinea and Sierra Leone, although the number of new cases has been falling. Following his Conservative Party's stunning victory in this week's general election, British Prime Minister David Cameron has been outlining his plans for the next 5 years. In his victory speech outside 10 Downing Street, Cameron pledged to lead a government for one nation and make Great Britain even greater. The Conservatives won 331 seats, 5 more than needed for a majority in the House of Commons. Cameron has already reappointed 4 members of his cabinet, including Chancellor George Osborne and Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond. The other parties, with the exception of the Scottish National Party, which made huge gains, have been left to pick up the pieces. The leaders of the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats and the UK Independence Party all stepped down after their poor showings in the election. Now, Haedong Tea is a beverage that has been enjoyed in Korea for centuries now, known for its ability to melt stress away. Fans of the drink have been celebrating the tea's official recognition as part of Korea's agricultural heritage. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Grown in Korea's Gyeongsang-namdo province, Haedong Tea is well known for its ability to calm the mind and promote well-being. To this day, it's highly praised, as seen in this event where some 300 participants reenact a parade to offer the tea to the king. It's celebrating the recent inscription of Haedong Tea as Korea's 6th nationally important agricultural heritage.
The famous tea is offered to any participant in today's event. More will be offered in another event, the 19th Haedong Tea Festival, which will run for 4 days from May 22nd.
The festival will be held at the cultivation site of the Haedong tea leaves. The area is known for stunning views, surrounded by Chirisan Mountain and shoreline of the Haedong National Park. The event is also expected to boost the number of foreign tourists, particularly those from China.
Around 3,000 Chinese tourists have visited the Haedong area already this year. They come to get the authentic experience of healing one's mind and body by enjoying our tea and tea leaves.
The local government says it plans to try and register Haedong Tea as a globally important agricultural heritage in the near future. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
And finally, leaving you with a brief look at the weather. We can expect overcast skies tonight with a chill in the air, and we'll see the mercury dip to 10 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Sunday is going to be a glorious, sunny spring day across the entire country, with a daytime high topping out at 26 degrees Celsius in the capital. But enjoy it while you can, as we have rain in the forecast on Monday and Tuesday. With that, let's take a look at the conditions around the world. And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.co.kr/news. And it's also worth downloading our smartphone app. Just search for Arirang TV. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.